Egypt has ratified its new constitution. 64% of Egyptians voted for the 236 articles, which begin with this preamble: "We, the people of Egypt, in the name of the merciful God and with his aid, declare this to be our constitution, the document of the 25th of January revolution, which was started by our youth, embraced by our people, supported by our armed forces." So what does the Constitution say, and what does it mean for Egypt? Cairo correspondent Abigail Hauslohner joins us from Cairo. And Abigail, before we get into the details of the Constitution, what is the mood there tonight now that this kind of stage of this battle is over?
Well, the mood is a lot calmer than it was a couple weeks ago in the middle of this political crisis building up to the national referendum on the Constitution. But it's still unclear sort of where this is going to go next. We now have sort of 2 months ahead of us where Egyptians are going to be moving towards a parliamentary election. The new constitution spells out that there has to be a vote for the lower house of parliament within 60 days of the new constitution's acceptance. So, we're waiting to see how the opposition maneuvers in the next 2 months, whether we're going to see more street protests, because a lot of people in the opposition would like to see this constitution struck down entirely, and they're convinced that protest is the way to go, or whether we're going to see some new mobilizing politically, some campaigning perhaps, and we don't know whether we're going to see the opposition really getting out into the streets and trying to mobilize around a parliamentary vote. People are also anxiously waiting to see if that upper house of parliament, which is dominated also by Islamists, whether they try to push forward any really controversial legislation in the next 2 months.
So what does this constitution do? How does it rearrange Egyptian society, if at all?
Well, a lot of it resembles the 1971 constitution, the old constitution, which was passed under Anwar Sadat's military regime. The new constitution does carry certainly a more Islamic character. Its critics argue that it opens the door for a far more Islamicized society. It opens the door for Islamic law being implemented to a far more extreme degree. That said, Egypt's constitution has always had Islamic law in there as a primary source of legislation. So Egyptians are waiting to see how that is actually interpreted, carried out on the ground, what it means in the justice system, what it means for ordinary Egyptians. The opposition and human rights groups say that the new constitution does not protect the rights of women and minority groups because of the way it enshrines Islamic law. And critically, it also upholds the powers and immunity, really, of the military. And that's the sort of the institution that backed up Mubarak and previous regimes here in Egypt for 60 years. It's the institution that a lot of sort of youth activists were hoping to overthrow once and for all, particularly with this last presidential election. But they are still very much in the background with this new constitution, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well.
Okay. Abby, thanks a lot for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.